Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff, and this show is designed to highlight the work of philanthropic leaders here in the United States and then beyond. And with us today is an absolutely fascinating woman. Her name is Rosita Romero. She's the Executive Director of the Dominican Women's Development Center. Rosita, thank you so much for joining us. And Rosita, can you tell our audience a little bit about the Dominican Women's Development Center?
Thank you very much, Jean, for inviting me to your program. I feel privileged as a beneficiary of successful philanthropy. My organization is definitely very glad to be here. We started the organization 32 years ago. We just had our 32nd anniversary virtual gala, and it was a response to the sexism and the condition of Latina women in our society. It was a group of 9 women who started the organization, and we have been very successful. We started from nothing, practically. When we had our first meeting, we collected $30. We passed around the hat, and everybody gave $1. This is an indication that every dollar helps. And nowadays, 32 years later, we're an organization of several $1 million. And we have 5 programs. Those programs run from education to promote women for further education, to learn English language. We provide child care center, which is something that is part and parcel of what we need as women, because we need to have the peace of mind that we're leaving our children in a safe place where we pursue our career, our education.
Exactly. You can't leave your child home alone, right?
That's right. Yes. And for the Latino women and all women in society which we service, this is something that is very important. Another program that we have is the program against domestic violence. Again, domestic violence is one of the ways in which power and control is exercised over women in our society. It's one of the ugliest way in which we see sexism manifested. And we work with thousands of women per year, helping them
And not just
heal.
Dominican, right?
That is correct. We serve all nationalities, and we work, we see women from all 5 boroughs in New York City.
Yes, I'm so impressed with your work. I remember, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, 3 years ago exactly, when you reached out to me. We had met through New York Women's Foundation, another charity that I was very involved with and remain very involved with. And you had asked if I would be an honoree along with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I did a little research on your organization, and I said, yes, I'm going to do it. And it was a wonderful, wonderful event. And just the cause is so important. And although I'm not Dominican and Lin-Manuel Miranda is not Dominican, we saw the importance of what you do, and we wanted to be involved with you and the women that work so hard to help so many women and families in the 5 boroughs of New York, correct? You work everywhere, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan, Staten Island, and you're working with so many women. And I want to back up a little bit before I ask more about your charity. I want our viewers to know more about you, because you started this charity when you were in your 20s, in your early 20s. You were a young woman, and I understand you came from the Dominican Republic when you were 18 years old. Is that correct?
That is correct, Jean. And when I came to the U.S., I did not know English. And
wow.
I learned the language
quickly, right?
Very quickly.
Yes.
And moved on to go to college, and I went to college in Connecticut, and then I moved to New York City, and that's when we started the organization.
And so you are a real success story. Here you were a woman who came from the Dominican Republic at 18, and you didn't know English. You went to college, graduated from college, and then you turn around and start a charity to help all women from all backgrounds. It's just incredible. And what was your life like in the Dominican Republic? Give me a little idea and give our viewers a little idea.
Absolutely.
And is it very different now? I guess it is, because you're working full time, right?
Yes, yes. And well, I come from a working class background in the Dominican Republic, and I am very proud of my humble beginnings.
You should be.
And when my parents were working the service industry, my mother was a stay-home mom.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that she didn't work, because she did. She worked very hard at work, and that's something that we as women we value. And when I came, I was interested in being part of American society, but most importantly, I didn't want to forget about my humble beginnings. And as I rised up on the economic scale, I also wanted to pull other women, because I think that's our role. That is really our responsibility. The more success we have, the more our responsibility to help others to reach the same goals. Just the same way, the more money we have, the more responsibility we have to help others, because God created wealth and health for everybody.
I agree.
And that's something that we all want to share the blessings.
And what were the biggest obstacles you faced when you came to this country? Did you find that people were open to you as a Dominican woman, or did you find that because you are a woman of color that it was difficult? I think our viewers need to know firsthand from someone like you what it's like to be new in this country, from the Dominican Republic, not able to speak English, and how was it initially?
Yeah, I believe that something that we cannot ignore, the fact that as women of color, we do have a more difficult time, and not knowing the language, speaking with an accent, and also being a woman who wears her hair naturally in an African hairstyle, because I am so proud of my African heritage. That is something that not a lot of people felt comfortable. And I'm sure that there have been situations where people have undermined me or undervalue what we bring to the table because of that. Those are the subtle manifestations of racism. And of course, there are women who have more white privilege that are able to access more funding. That's something that I'm aware of.
And it has to change, and I think it is changing. I think now with this whole, with everything that's gone on recently, with the police killings and the growth of Black Lives Matter, and bringing things up to, to the forefront, people are changing, and things have to change, and there shouldn't be a different way of looking at anyone because of race, because of gender, because of religious background, because of sexual preference. We all have to look at one another equally, and I'm glad that you are doing things to help. And what specifically does the Dominican Women's Development Center do to combat racial injustice?
Well, the first thing that we speak about in our organization is about self-esteem and self-worth. What you mentioned, we were all created equal. And if we have that knowledge, that awareness of our identity, our strength, and we understand that we all have something to contribute, and we have that self-worth and that self-value, that we need to be respected as human beings, regardless of the characteristics that we have. We're human beings, and as human beings, we can all make a contribution into society. We all have something to offer, and that is what part of what is required. We need structures that realize that everybody can contribute something.
And I assume you teach that as well, and self-esteem and feeling good about who you are to those that get involved with your organization. And I want to ask you a little bit about your budget. You mentioned you started 32 years ago with $30 that was collected around this table of women who are all involved in wanting to create your organization. And what is your annual budget like now, today?
Right now, it's $5 million.
Well, congratulations.
We've
what a
come
difference.
a long way. Yes.
Now, and are you government funded? Do you receive some funding maybe for overseeing different programs? Or is all of this money coming in from corporations and private individuals?
85% of our funding comes from the government, and that is something that we're trying to change. That's why philanthropy is so important for us, because when you have government funding, half of your time is spent reporting and being monitored and being scrutinized, heavily scrutinized by the government.
Yes.
And that's not what we want. We want to spend the time servicing our families, because that's what we're about. We want to spend the time organizing the community. You mentioned what we do to help deal with the social unrest and that we have right now, and with the inequalities that we have been dealing with since the beginning. What we do, we believe is strongly in advocacy and community organizing, because the people that are affected by the problem are the ones that should be at the leadership, in the forefront of those struggles and those advances in collaboration with our allies. And it's something that we try to mobilize our community around that.
Yes, I'm involved on 2 charity boards where we do receive government funding, and there's no question that there are more, the government oversees more day by day what you do, but I think that when government, when business, and when individuals all work together, we achieve a lot. And so what I'm hearing from you is you want to change the balance a little bit. You're happy to have the government funding because you can do many new things and different things, but nonetheless, you still have to go out there and raise dollars from individuals and corporations, and you're doing some really great things. And for our viewers, we are with Rosita Romero. She's the Executive Director of the Dominican Women's Development Center. It is a charity that serves all women and children, not all, but women throughout the 5 boroughs of New York City. And she has done an amazing thing here. She started this organization 32 years ago, as she said, and we're going to learn more. And now that we're in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, I've read a little bit about some of the work you're doing. You're reaching out to your community in so many nice ways, but can you explain to our viewers exactly what you're doing?
We have been frontline workers, and in order to protect our staff, we have started providing our services remotely since March. We did it for about 6 months, and now we're going back to in person. The idea is what we had to do during the pandemic was to remain relevant, to respond to the arising needs. And many of the families that we work with are women that are undocumented. So if they lost their jobs, then they didn't qualify for unemployment benefits and for SNAP and many other benefits. So we did fundraising. We were able to access many grants to be able to distribute food, rent. We have families that if we didn't help them pay a couple of months' rent, they would have been evicted. So we are preventing homelessness, we're preventing support. We are providing cleaning products. We are giving the children Pampers, formula, real survival needs of our families we have been able to meet, and we feel really proud about that.
You should, and because this is a very, very difficult time, and I can't imagine for undocumented people who are here, these are people, and I don't care whether someone's documented or undocumented. In the eyes of God, we are all the same, and we must provide for one another. And in my mind, there's no option at all. And I'm so glad that you're doing this work, because we have to. And you are such a great leader, and I just love what you do. And so day after day, you work, I guess now you're working from home, correctly?
We have a hybrid methods, some days from home and some days from the office.
Yes, and what about your volunteers? How do they work right now? Are they, I'm trying to envision how you're doing, are they dropping off the goods to the different people, your service, or what? How are you working out now?
Yes, during the worst days of the pandemic, we actually had volunteers to deliver the food to people's home, so that people wouldn't have to leave their home and could practice the social distancing. Now we have volunteers come. We have volunteers support our special events. Sometimes we have a 24-hour hotline. We train our volunteers to provide assistance to women until they're able to see one of our counselors, some crisis intervention. We have volunteers come to our daycare center to read to the children.
Wonderful.
That's something that if anyone would like to do, they would love it. And sometimes we have trips, people can chaperone. There are many ways in which our volunteers can get involved.
And is the daycare center open now, or were you forced to close it?
We've closed for some time, but now we reopened, but it's a hybrid, again, a combination model. The daycare services 110 children, and there are 60 families that feel comfortable bringing the children to the child care center, but the other 60 are
afraid.
They're afraid. They're staying home, but they're still getting the services, the remote learning with our curriculum, and we gave tablets. The Board of Education gave us tablets for our children, and they can still continue to learn, and the families continue to receive education about how they can protect themselves. We provide a lot of mental health support, because during this time, people are isolated, people are stressed out, depressed, just the fear of what is going to happen, the uncertainty. It's enough to affect people's mental health status. And we do virtual activities. We do things to keep families engaged, to keep them busy, to distract their mind from all the problems. So
it's a very hard time right now for really Americans across our country. And then if you're an undocumented person and you don't qualify for unemployment, it's even harder. And what advice would you give to a young person who's maybe new in this country and they don't speak English and they want to move forward? And I would imagine you would recommend getting as much education as possible. But I want to hear what you say.
Absolutely. Education is part of the key to success. We need to stay focused on our goals. It's very important to keep our intentions clear, to make connections, to be able to take advantages of opportunities when they come. We have to be ready to grab those opportunities. We have to have faith, Jean. Spirituality it's a rock that helps us to stay grounded, and having mentors.
Very important.
Yes.
Did you have a mentor?
I have many. I have
Nice.
many women that influenced me so much, that I am so grateful for, that really shape my the way I think, who contribute so much to my strength, beginning with my mother and my grandmother. But that is something that is so important. There is a Buddhist phrase that says that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And we have to be open to knowledge. We have to be strong to take on our God-given missions, because I believe that everybody has a mission in this world. Everybody has a purpose. My mission has been to create and sustain this organization, and I feel very proud, because I think I've done a very good job at it.
You've done a great job, and you will
aside.
continue to do a great job and grow and expand. And for our viewers, how can they either get involved by donating or by contributing? Because I think you do get government funding, but you also rely on private funding, correct?
Yes, and one of our goals right now is to diversify our funding sources, because the government funding and many foundations, they give us monies for programs to provide
yes, to
services.
oversee programs, right?
Yes, and the families need the services, but it's important that we maintain our institutions, Jean, and with the private money, we can solidify the infrastructure. We can pay for that bookkeeper that the government doesn't want to pay, but if we don't have that strong fiscal department, then we are not able to submit the reports on time. Little things like that.
Well, bookkeeping is very important for all charities, and keeping exact records, I understand. And do you have a physical building that you operate out of, or are you renting space? What are you doing exactly?
We have 3 different sites. Because of the problem of gentrification in our community, we have not been able to purchase a building. Rents are very expensive, and we have not being able to afford like a large space. So we have 3 different spaces, but they are very warm, they're very open. People are welcome to come and visit us, talk to the family, read to the children, spend time with, we have an LGBTQ drop-in center. And people can come and contribute in so many ways.
And do you find people go to your centers frequently? Maybe not now during the pandemic, but otherwise, or are they meeting places or more for services?
They are meeting places. That's one of the things that happen at our organization. People came in for programming.
And then they connect.
They connect, exactly.
With other people in similar situations, or maybe they meet people, not just staff, but people that can help them, right?
Yes. And we have educational events that are open to the public. Things that are general themes, like, for instance, we celebrate International Women's Day. So we come together as women, and we do more planning, and we get excited, and we share each other's company, and talk about what else we can do. Sometimes we have yoga So we have our yoga programs. We have some workshops, some sort of gatherings where we talk about home remedies, about things that we learn from each other, where we do dancing, we do things that are fun, where everybody can be part of, and strong friendships are formed in the process. And we find a way of integrating people.
We've just about run out of time, but I want you to give our viewers the website for donations.
Yes, it's dwdc.org. dwdc.org.
So dwdc.org.
Correct. Yes.
Wonderful.
The initials of the organization's Dominican Women's Development Center.
And thank you so much, Rosita Romero, for being with us today. And I want to thank you personally. Not that I've needed the services, but I want to thank you from my heart to yours for all that you do for women across the 5 boroughs of New York. Thank you so much. And this completes this episode of Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafiroff. I'll see you next week.